2, 1. Hey, everybody. It's your friend Adam. Always punctual, always on time. So I guess we're starting about 15 minutes late because this talk has been lined up, I think, for months now. It's been sitting in my my scheduled events. So we had some stuff come up. Finally, we're able to talk to one another, both YouTube atheists. I'm more towards the religion has secular utility end of the spectrum. Skylar, I don't. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself, Skylar, and your like your YouTube mission, I guess.
I'm Skylar Fiction. I wrote a channel called the Skylar Fiction Show. We host conversations, debates about theology, religion. We had a lot of entertainment. I like to kind of think of it as an entertainment channel with a lot of humor. But Definitely. I do love the debate. So when I do the debates, that tends to be really fun for me. Our mission is to make sure that everybody's heard the good word of Raptor Jesus. And we hope that everybody out there knows that you have to unlock the door to your heart for Raptor Jesus, because Raptors can't unlock doors. So if you open that door for me, unlock it, you can come in your heart. But other than that, that's it. We do an entertainment show. We have fun. We talk to theists, and I like to do debates. So, and of course, my co-host, Dr. Josh, is got a PhD in Assyriology. He does a show called Digital Hammurabi, which is a much more educational show on the ancient Near East. So I love him. Love the show. And I'm happy to be on here tonight, man. This is awesome. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, you've had some very interesting debates. I watch some of your shows. I guess just to let people know that Raptor Jesus is kind of an inside joke on your show. Like if you don't know this, you probably don't know what he's talking about. But Raptor, you have, is that you like your channel avatar? You have a Velociraptor.
We've got this is our Raptor Jesus. He evolved for your sins.
Now, did the Velociraptor die for the sins of the dinosaurs? And perhaps I don't know what's the folklore around.
Listen,
Raptor.
There's only one true Raptor Jesus, and as many people that are young Earth creationists believe, they believe that the dinosaurs were on the Ark, and Raptor Jesus is one of those dinosaurs. That's why he didn't go extinct initially. But like in a lot of ways, he's very much like the Jesus of the Bible, but a raptor. And he gave up his claws. He took holy hands on earth in order for you to be forgiven for your sins. But like I said, it's complicated, and I don't know. We like to have fun on our show, and we like to. Sometimes we like to use Raptor Jesus as an analogy, or of maybe other people's beliefs to kind of illustrate why sometimes they can sound so wacky. That's not really a nice word, but sometimes people's beliefs are wacky to me. So
they are.
I don't know.
They are. So I kind of sometimes I embrace that. I have an artist studio in downtown Los Angeles, and we had a dowsing like energy. What do I call them? They came down to like inspect the energy of our artist studio and align the energy.
Awesome.
I know. So I just went with it, and I had so much fun. It was the greatest time. So I'm with you. I'm definitely more of a skeptic, more of a show me the evidence, show me the money kind of guy. Like that's just the way I'm configured. But I do look at other people and think, other people are configured differently. I think one of the biggest problems that we have as a species is that we often think everybody is just like us, but in a different body. When people do have a lot, like people are vastly different. And once you kind of go with that, you can really embrace it. Like you kind of, the world doesn't seem as scary to me, and I'm really fascinated by people and like trying to figure people out. So I know that your channel is much. Let me just take a guess. I think you're basically offended by the sensibilities of people who believe, or you're offended by people believing untrue things. Like that's kind of the source of your atheism. Am I right? Am I close?
Well, yeah, I would say that the reason we do our show, a lot of the reason is to deal with some of the fundamentalists that are out there,
Right.
and the ways that they're. Personally, I live in a state. Well, I live in a city that's very liberal towards like people who are gay. And one of the things that always bothered me, especially within the last 10, 20 years, is, some of the Christians trying to limit the rights of gay people, not allow them to adopt, religions putting their hands into the politics, where they're making laws that, aren't, they want to make everybody else live the way that they want to live. So that's the kind of stuff that really irks me. Personally, I don't have a problem with people having spiritual beliefs. Like, if you want to believe whatever, as long as you're not harming yourself or you're not harming other people, go have it. If it makes you feel better that you pray to Jesus every day and you think that he's helping you, good. Life's hard. It's tough. Go at it. And I'm more of an agnostic. I was an evangelical Christian for a long time. I almost became a minister at one point.
Wow.
Yeah. I was going to church 5 days a week. I was ridiculous. I was in it. When I jumped in it. I was like the annoying Christian friend that nobody likes to have around, but they're still your friend, the guy who gets saved. I would preach Jesus when we're going out to party and stuff. So I don't necessarily mind that so much. It's just, interfering in people's lives, and also just some of the damaging beliefs that I think fundamentalists have about their own worldview, where they think they're worthless, or they think they're just terrible, awful people, and that kind of stuff bothers me. I don't think people should think that way about themselves. So you're an okay person. Most of you are okay out there. I mean, some of you guys are pieces of shit, but most of you're probably all right. Can I curse on this channel? Do you guys curse?
You can curse.
I don't want to demonetize you.
I do try to keep it to a minimum. I do have
I'll
a
keep
lot
it
of
low.
religious,
Yeah.
but so you're.
No worries, I'll keep it.
No,
keep
it's.
it low. Yeah.
I don't want you to limit your freedom. We're here for freedom of speech, liberty.
No. But it's also about respect too. So.
Yes, totally. So you're basically against religious beliefs curtailing people's individual rights, especially, you mentioned specifically gay rights, which, I mean, I'm in agreement with you there. I think the church has a problem with certain, like I'm pro gay marriage, that kind of stuff. And the church has lost a lot of membership over that issue. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's workarounds. There's cultural workarounds. Obviously they try to say, some religious people do try to make they say, hate the sinner and not the sin, which is an attempted workaround. I don't know if you agree.
No, yeah, I think it's a softer way of saying it. It's like, but like the problem is you say that, people say that with words, but they don't do it in action. Because if you truly cared about these people, you wouldn't try to restrict their right to have the same rights that you have as a straight couple. Right. Or you wouldn't want to try to stop them from adopting children. There are lots of kids that want to be adopted that just want loving, caring parents. And you know what? If it's two people the same sex, I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, I guess that would be my main issue. I mean, I definitely have an issue with people not believing things that are true also. But lots of people believe things that aren't true. Unfortunately, you don't have to be a Christian.
Yeah, I don't think you can get away from that. I'm like, I've given up on that one. Seriously. I mean, I try to believe true things because it's something that I tend to be obsessed by. But I notice that a lot of people aren't generally obsessed by it as much as me, and probably live better lives by believing things that are completely untrue or not even close to true.
It's comforting sometimes.
Yeah, in the same exact way. Like, who doesn't want God as your co-pilot? Seriously. If I was picking a co-pilot, I think God would be pretty close to the top of the list. Like, if he's available, obviously. I would like there to be more than like when I die. I'd like there to be something awesome that happens, something more than this. I don't know if there is something else after. Like I would be kind of like, I mean, if God is the way the Bible describes God, I don't want that God. It's a little scary to me. Right. But like, if you're taking a literal type translation, the way a lot of fundamentalists believe, but if there's just some kind of God, that's exciting to me. There's something more that created the universe and everything around it, and may have purpose for my life. That's fantastic. But I just don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not. So I think where we would have a difference of opinion, and I'm not even really sure that we do, because you seem to be wanting more and more people to be atheists. Like that seems to be a goal of yours. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I want people to leave fundamentalist beliefs in religion. Like, I don't care if you're spiritual. I don't care if you just believe in God or something like that, or you want to hope for something better. Like I said, I was a Christian for like 20 years. After I left the Christian faith, I was a deist. Actually, my early days of YouTube, you'll see me as a deist if you watch some of my old videos. So, I mean, no, I mean, overall, no, I don't care. I'm not even an atheist. I'm an agnostic. I don't know. I don't
really
know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Oh, I would say that I'm atheistic towards the Christian religion. Let me be clear, depending on how you define it, because every Christian kind of defines the religion a little differently. But yeah, I'm open to the concept that there could be a God. I don't know if there, because you think about like, sometimes I think people say the word atheist, all they do is they think of a specific God. But there's all types of God concepts.
Sure.
Like, that could be possible. And it's not necessarily the concepts that we're just so traditionally think of, like this person in the sky, or like, I have a lot of appreciation for some of the pantheistic type views on like a deistic God. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of open.
Even like the simulation hypothesis is kind of an idea of a God, because someone had to create the simulation, the supercomputer that we live in, and supposedly that's like more probable than we actually live in a God created universe, which is kind of freaky, really.
It really just depends on how you define God, right? Like if it's just a general term where you're like a creator or something, well, yeah, there's lots of options that are plausible to where you could have been created. I guess aliens could be your God if they created you in a lab or something. I mean,
that's another one.
You know, like I said, it's really where you just get into the definitions of it. And, you know, like I said, I'm not bothered if people are comforted by religion. I think that you would probably be better off finding other things to comfort you. But I mean, that's just my opinion.
So it's the fundamentalists that bother you. What do you mean by fundamentalist?
Like people who read the Bible and take it literally, like to honestly believe that, let's say the Adam and Eve story, they think it's literally two people and a serpent in there. I mean, this is why I always start with Genesis when I talk to theists oftentimes, because once I find out how you view that story, I'm going to be able to tell most of your theology. Because if you're someone's like, well, this is more allegorical, this is just telling a story about how, or this is just some kind of message that God's trying to portray, then I'm like, oh, you're a little bit more open-minded. You're not going to take some of these darker passages so literally. But, you know, if you do take those so literally, I think you're going to run into, obviously, the problems. But that's the kind of stuff that bothers me.
So it is the believing
and people who self-hate. Yeah, I mean, to a point, yeah. I mean, that's an aspect of it. Absolutely. Well, like if someone, let me put it this way in a funny way. Like if someone just believes that there's a God out there looking out for them, I don't really care.
Right.
To be frank with you, you know, like that aspect of not believing a true thing doesn't bother me, doesn't hurt anybody, just makes your life feel a little better.
Where you care where it intersects the real world, because if you're talking about the realistic, if they're believing Genesis is like scientific fact, then that affects the real world, because you can't necessarily get to the answers, or the scientific answers they're rejecting, and that bothers you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, things like you look at, like, I mean, my wife was a Jehovah's Witness, right? Her whole family was Jehovah's Witness. And to this day, Jehovah's Witness still believe that you can't get blood transfusions.
Yes.
Or many other things. Yeah, no, it's awful. And you know where they get it from? They just get it from the Bible passage where it's about drinking blood. They somehow equate drinking blood to a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
And I actually had an argument with my mother-in-law. I don't talk religion with her too often. She's really nice. Actually, for a Jehovah's Witness, she doesn't really actually preach to me at all. We keep it separate, right? It's family. But one time I sat and talked to her, and I was like, and we were talking about that particular subject. I was like, if you're gonna say a blood transfusion equates to drinking blood, then a mother breastfeeding is cannibalism. Like, that's basically what you're arguing to that extent. I was like, this is a ridiculous type way of trying to justify why you can't be saved by modern medicine. And of course there's other things, but that's a good example.
Well, I look at it, I mean, I would say it's more a problem of psychology than religion, because I think like the blood transfusion thing is the cultural norm. And it's not necessarily that it's in the Bible, because there are so many other religions that read that verse in the Bible that didn't come up with the fact that we can't have blood transfusions. But since Jehovah's Witnesses have this cultural norm, they just we as human beings get in this pattern that, this is just the tradition, this is the way we've always done it, this is the way it's always worked out for us. And even though they do lose, and I think Jehovah's Witnesses lose kind of a substantial number of people, like maybe as many as 500 a year from this blood transfusion thing. Somebody brought that out in a debate, and I thought, well, if it's 3 or 4 people, but I was alarmed that it was a substantial number of people. So
well, my wife and I were, so when I married my wife, she was still somewhat Jehovah's Witness, definitely not going to church and practicing in a sense like that, but she was still sticking to some of the rules, we'll say. And when we were having our first baby, I remember we were in the hospital and the doctors are coming around, you're signing all the forms. And one of the forms is like, if something goes wrong, you've got to sign this so we can give you blood transfusion. Mm-hmm. And my wife's like, well, I don't really want to do that. He's like, well, can my husband do it for me? Basically. Sign for me. Yeah. Sign for me. If there's an emergency, if something goes wrong, they won't let me just sign right there. It has to be already like, hey,
she's looking for a cultural workaround. Look at that.
Exactly. And I'm like, I was like, but that would be an emergency situation where like, we may not have time for that. Like, who knows what could go wrong where we may not have time to get my decision-making process in here. And I was like, and we started arguing from the nurses and the doctors. It was kind of funny, actually. And I was like, you know what? You can tell God to blame me on this one. Like, just sign the fucking papers. I was like, just sign this. And, she ended up signing it. I was like, but by the second baby, we got to that point. And I just remember looking at her like, sign the damn paper. We're going to do this. And she signed it and we did it. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so, first of all, every church every week around the world is learning the same exact thing every week, because the heads of the church, the Watchtower pamphlets stuff, they create the media and everything like that. And they coordinate to have every church being taught the same thing. It's very cult-like at the same time. Now, I remember talking to some Jehovah's Witnesses one time, and they were like, this is so amazing. This is awesome. Like, no other church does this. And I'm like, this isn't a good thing that you're all being taught the same things. And then, of course, if you don't believe something, you're shunned, right? You get shunned out of the church.
Can you hold on one second?
Oh. Yeah, go ahead, my man.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
No, you're all good.
So, go ahead, continue.
No. I was going to say, yeah, that they do this thing where they think this is a good thing that you're all taught the same thing the whole time, but this is just a way of control in a sense, to where you're taught the same thing, you're all learning the same thing, everything's on the same, everyone's on the same mindset. When something goes wrong, like someone, like say has premarital sex in the church and they find out about it, they'll shun you. They will kick you out of the church, or they call it defellowship, basically. So you can still come to church, but you're just not a member anymore. And no one's going to talk to you. They're just going to shun you.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is all very dangerous type. This is the kind of stuff that I would say I fight against. But it's messed up to do to people.
So you don't like the fact that people kick you out of once you disobey the rules of the religion, that they excommunicate you?
I guess it's better for you to get excommunicated.
I guess I know that
out of the church.
That is one of the harshest things that a lot of people, I think, turn to atheism because they feel like they were kicked out of the village for disagreement. And then, it's kind of a painful thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's awful to feel that way. I mean, and what drives me crazy is the hypocrisy, right? Mm-hmm. Because like these people are all acting like they're perfect in the church. Mm-hmm. But the one guy or girl who's honest enough to say something, admit to something in the church, like having premarital sex or whatever it is, they're the ones who get shunned and get disfellowshipped. But the elders in these churches who, even if I follow Christianity, there's no man who hasn't sinned, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is one of the things Jesus was telling when they were going to stone the prostitute to death. He's like, let he who's not sinned throw the first stone. And I find it hilarious that these people just think they're so mighty and righteous, as if they don't make mistakes and then they can disfellowship people. It's just hypocritical to me, it seems.
Right. They're disfellowshipping people for breaking the rules, though, correct? I mean, it depends. I guess it depends
Mm-hmm.
upon what they're being disfellowshipped for. But your belief is that they shouldn't be. I mean, I always have a hard
Well,
time with the
yeah.
disfellowship argument, just because, like, if like
Mhm.
if these churches tend to be kind of insular communities. So if you're just going to be like, if you're not going to be, if you're like, what is the what I'm looking for? Obviously, I'm looking for the right words here. But if you're not going to be a part of the church, what is the downside of being disfellowshipped? I guess it's because people in your families are torn apart. That's probably the
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're very, very.
biggest
That's the
problem.
thing about like religions like that. They are very, very close family. Um, and sometimes, like, I mean, it's just like your whole community. Like, if you live in a world, let's say you're a teenager and you've
Mhm.
grown up in a Jehovah's Witness family, you're going to church 3 times a week. They limit. You're very much limited. You don't have any
Mhm.
holidays you can celebrate. You're very much limited on the media that you're going to see, movies, entertainment. Um, you might even be homeschooled, depending on the situation. And then you're disfellowshipped, and everybody that you know and love in your community now just gives you the feeling like they don't care about you.
Mhm.
Right? They're not. It's not a way. I don't know if they view it in some kind of weird way that this is helpful to the people. Maybe they do. Maybe they think this is a way of like a disciplinary action.
Mhm.
And if we shun this person enough, it reminds me like when I get mad at my wife and I just don't talk to her,
Mhm.
as if this is helping the situation.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm going to punish you by not talking to you. She's probably enjoying the day, not having to listen to me all day. Right? But
Yeah.
it certainly isn't helping solve the problem. So yeah, man, I don't know.
Well,
It's just dangerous all around.
Well, I look at it. I mean, I'm looking at all this stuff from a scientific perspective, from a moral psychology perspective, and the reason religions exist is because they evolved to bind people into cooperative groups. But that cooperation is predicated on there being a certain rule set that binds the group together. And if you have people that are going to disobey that rule set, then they aren't good members of that group. And therefore, that's why you throw them out of the group. And when you excommunicate them, I mean, that serves a very real function in that it creates more cohesiveness between the actual group members, the people that stay, and it disincentivizes people to come and go willy-nilly, which can make a group
Yeah.
can make more solidarity in a group. So I mean, there's a big trade-off there. I understand that it sucks for the person that left, but all the evolutionary incentives are going to be for that kind of thing to take place. And I don't necessarily know, because we talked a little bit, and this is why I'm an atheist, I'm more of a pro-religion atheist, because like you say that you don't like religious beliefs curbing people's behavior where it comes to like them making them against gay rights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you there, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily know, and until we can get like scientific data on this, I don't know how many murders are prevented each year from religion. I don't know how much it's curbing people's behavior where both of us will agree that that's a good thing.
See, here's what I would think. And all right, I think about in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you actually wanted to murder somebody?
Very many. Yes.
I've never had a situation where I've actually wanted to murder somebody.
Really?
Not a once. Like, I mean,
Okay. Well,
maybe
then
if you give me like some kind of ultimate bad guy.
Yeah, then
Huh?
you've
Well,
never been wrong.
Yeah. No, I've been wrong, but it doesn't mean I want to murder them. Right? That's not my
Okay.
instinct to murder the person. Now, don't get me wrong. Like if maybe a child molester or something,
Mhm.
like I might, be like, let's murder this guy. But like, it's not an urge of mine. Like I don't feel a natural human urge to harm somebody.
There's this great book written by David M. Buss called The Murderer Next Door, where he actually quantifies these numbers. And it's off the charts. It's something like 90% of people have fantasized about murdering people in males, and it's like 78% in females. So while you may be one of the 10% that has never fantasized about murdering somebody, you might be completely in the minority. And I don't know how much of society cohering depends upon people having these feelings and not acting upon them.
I think that I'd have to read it obviously and look at the study and stuff like
The
that.
Murder
but,
Next Door is
like,
a
off the top of my
page
head,
turner, man. I'm serious. You won't find a better book than that. Seriously.
but I wonder if there's almost a distinction between like fantasizing about something and actually really wanting it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like, I don't know.
They ask them. I know where you're going already. Because they ask the people, and the book is laced with these, because they're doing interviews with people, and they ask them, well, why didn't you act upon it? And like everyone says, I would have gotten in trouble. I had a lot of people do go to the religious stuff. They say, I didn't want it. I didn't want to burn in hell. I didn't want it to be on my conscience. So I mean, these are factors that people consider.
Do you read any Malcolm Gladwell? Have you read
Hell
his
yeah,
books?
I've read all his books. Yeah.
So
all but his most recent.
Which one did I just did the Talking to Stranger one. Talking to Strangers was the last
that's his most
book I
recent
read of his.
book, yeah.
That's the most recent. It's okay. It's interesting. It's a little long-winded for the topic, but it's an interesting book. But there, I think in the tipping point, and they kind of touch on it in the Talking to Strangers, is the idea of like cheating, like when people will cheat, right?
Yes.
And they did these studies to find out like what is it? Like what is it? Why would one person be more likely to cheat over another? And they put like religion, morals, like all these different factors. And they said, and what they ended up finding was the number one reason why somebody will cheat is if there's opportunity. It didn't have anything to do with their religious background, their morals, things like that. It just, was there an opportunity? Did they think they can get away with it in a sense? And I found that very, very interesting. And I don't know. Like I'd have to read. Like I said, I'd have to read the study. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Maybe not. It's scary that 90% of people would want to murder somebody. I just never had those urges. Like in that sense. So I guess what the point I was going to get at to say was the idea that I don't know if it's kind of like prison in a sense. It's like prison and drugs, right? Like prison doesn't stop people from using drugs. The fear of getting arrested doesn't stop drug use. I don't think it's like people still murder people because even with the death penalty or life in prison, like it's not like that stops people from murder. And I would just question whether religion actually stops people from murdering when you can look at other situations like drugs in the prison system or murder in our prison system. If the thought of something tangible, like something like, you can go to prison for life, or you can get the death penalty depending on the state you're in, opposed to like on a religious aspect where you have faith that there's a heaven. You may have faith that there's some kind of eternal torture place called hell, if you believe in hell. I don't know. That's my general statement.
Right. So, but you do acknowledge that we don't necessarily know these answers. Like we don't necessarily have these answers. Yeah. So that's just
fair. Yeah, we don't know yet.
Yeah. I feel like, religion kind of evolved to keep the murder rate down. I think that's
depends on how you view religion. You look at the Bible. There's a lot of genocide and stuff in the Bible.
Murder inside the community. Like when it's outside, when it's outside the community, it's not technically murder. That's
how they view it.
That is a problem. Obviously, that's a problem. Like between group conflict is a huge problem. But between group conflict exists in the animal kingdom, and they don't have religion. So just because religion goes away, it doesn't necessarily mean between group conflict is going to go away.
Well, in the same time, I think for every good thing you could say about religion, you could say some bad things. It's one of those things where
that's just cherry picking.
Does it balance out? Does it balance out? I don't know. Maybe it balances out. You know what? Listen, I would be if religion, if a religion makes you want to murder less, please follow that religion. Please do that. Like
a pragmatist.
If it makes you. Yeah, I am a pragmatist on many levels. So I would rather you believe in that than go kill a bunch of people or hurt people or whatever. So
yeah, I do.
It's interesting, man.
The thing that makes me assume my position most is that I feel like the evolutionary argument rings true with me. So if religion is here, I feel like it's an evolutionary adaptation, and therefore it has to be some doing something positive to society. So there's another book that I read that made a big impression on me. It's Why We Need Religion by Stephen Asma. And he goes through kind of all the things, like goes through the one that we talked about already. You know, if it makes your life better, if you feel like you have more, it helps you be more successful, then you're obviously not against that. So I think the only place you really have a problem is where it like specifically gay rights, I think.
Yeah, are teaching people like they have no self-worth from being very born, that they're in need of a savior for some reason, like that kind of stuff. I think is damaging to human beings.
Really?
I mean, I grew up. Yeah, I think it's very damaging. If from the very young age you're taught that you're worthless and that you're worthy of death because of God, and the only thing that will make you not worthy of death is accepting God or Jesus. I think they can cause all kinds of problems with self-esteem, how you perceive the world. I mean, look at little things like climate change or like weather. Not to get into a whole climate change conversation, but think about somebody who doesn't care about the environment enough because they're like, this world's going to end eventually anyways. Like this world, this will be no more. So what do I care about the environment, right? Now, I'm not saying that's a good logic to use by any means, but there are people who are like that. Or people who, I mean, religion's been used for so many different justifications throughout history for things that we would view as morally unacceptable.
The apocalyptic stuff does drive me crazy. But this is another problem that I have kind of with the anti-theist community. They kind of want to lump all religions together, and there are different. Like I agree with you that the apocalyptic stuff is dangerous. Not only that, like, why even try? Like, a lot of these kids think, you know, the world's going to end in their lifetime. Why try in school if the world is going to end in your lifetime? It sets up completely bad incentives. But there are religions that don't have that apocalyptic bent. Specifically, Judaism, they don't emphasize the end of times or, you know, the world is coming to an end. So I think I do think I don't think that you can judge all religions the same, because they're basically putting together an ethic, like an ethics package for people. But I do, like, part of my project here on YouTube has been kind of to evaluate those ethics packages from a rational perspective and kind of look at them. Like the forgiveness thing, I think, is paramount. And there's a great book, Beyond Forgiveness. I'm forgetting the name of the author. They're coming to get me. I'm forgetting the name of the author, but forgiveness is so hard to establish in people. And I mean, even society moving from an honor culture to a dignity culture was partially predicated on the idea of forgiveness and that ethos of forgiveness. I mean, it's like the central founding ethic of Christianity, one could argue, because, you know, the whole passion story is about forgiveness. So I think that that's an important element to have in any religion that's going to be beneficial for society. And I don't necessarily know how you get this idea that we should forgive people, like the classic turn the other cheek, without religion. I don't know how these things come into society through secular means.
Yeah, I mean, you may have, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, I don't know if it would have came through secular means, the idea of forgiveness. I don't know if it did exist before religion. Maybe there was a concept of forgiveness to some degree. I don't know if, like, we put an importance on forgiveness. But I think, why is that important to like the idea of forgiveness, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I don't actually. Let me maybe take that back a step. Well, let me say this directly. I don't know if there was a concept of forgiveness before religion. May have been, may not have been. Whether forgiveness came about through religion, that's fine. Like, I don't have an issue with saying that religion's done good things throughout the world. I'm not one of these people who'd ever say something like that. That religion donates a lot. That does a lot of charity work out there. Catholic Church does a lot of good stuff out there. Does a lot of bad stuff too. But, like, here's the thing: is, like, it's always just a mixed bag in a sense. Like, we have this potential to do so many different things as human beings. And honestly, I don't see at this point, like I'd say in modern times, I don't see the need for religion. I don't know why we feel we need to believe in something. I mean, I get if it just comforts you, if it's something that comforts you, that's fine, that makes you feel better. But the problem is like, you're right. So there are certain religions, you're right. All religions there's a lot of different religions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our major ones, the most of the population is Christianity, Islam, and Judaism's not even that large. And because it's really Islam and Judaism. I mean,
they
Islam
don't proselytize.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is like, depending on the kind of Christian you are, that's really what it comes down to.
Sure.
Like, if you're just a happy-go-lucky, I love Jesus, singing his praises, you're just trying to do what you perceive to be nice things for people, have at it. But it's what I would call, and this is, I think, the distinction. This is actually a good distinction to be made here, Adam, is that I think what's happened to Christianity is they've become Bible worshipers, not God worshipers. Mm-hmm. And the Bible has become the most important thing, and that it's inerrant and it's perfect. And this is exactly what God wanted to communicate to us. And when you get into that mindset, you cause all kinds of, I believe, problems for yourself. And it's going to hurt you in the long run. It was a long answer.
Christianity, my read though, the reason why Christianity is so big is because it's doing something right. Like, especially in a time where people opt into that stuff, where it's voluntary, they're not being forced to be Christians. If people are opting in voluntarily, then they're doing it because it's creating value in their lives.
Kind of. I mean, people are indoctrinated into it every day.
Sure.
I mean, if you grow up, I mean, literally most of the time, it's just like politics. You follow what your parents give you.
Totally.
So like if you grow up in a Christian household, I guess that's what you're going to believe. So like, I don't think the problem is if we lived in a world where like you grew up to be an adult and then that's when you get to learn about religion and you can decide what's right for yourself for it. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where your family teaches you usually from the moment you're born. Then you're put in a community environment where you go to a church or you go to Christian functions and things like that, and you're taught more about it. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that like it's free in a sense, because I don't think you choose your beliefs to a certain degree. And if my parents taught me my whole life something false and the people I love and trusted the most, why would I discount them? Right. I don't think that's necessarily a free decision I'm making to follow a religion.
Does that bother you?
I mean,
that they taught you false things?
Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, it bothers me. Like, I don't feel an ill will towards them because they believed it, right? They didn't believe they were teaching me false things. So I would be more upset if they knew it was false and then they were teaching me it. But
they believed it. I mean, they didn't lie to you.
No, they weren't lying. Exactly. They're not lying to me. Yeah. It's just, this is what they believe. But I just wish they would have taught me Buddhism.
That's why I never
learned to meditate or something.
You know, this is why I think this is kind of why I never went down that path. I know a lot of atheists feel like they've been lied to, but since my parents believe it, I don't know how I could feel that I was being lied to. But you brought up, so do you think it would be better if people were taught religions once they were a certain age and then basically decided? Because I question if that's even functionally possible.
You're probably right. People probably wouldn't be religious if they weren't taught it from a young age.
Yeah, exactly. It's that it's much easier to teach a person language when they're a certain age, correct? Like if you get these people that are like feral people, they were raised by animals basically, not around humans, and they never learn language. Like that ship has sailed. I think that morality is that exact same way. So if you're no longer a believer, but I think like you were taught this stuff at a young age and internalized it, you probably have a very good moral compass. Like you basically have a religious moral compass in the same way that someone who learns English when they're a kid just knows English reflexively.
Yeah, I would say that I kept some of it and got rid of some of it, basically.
Yeah, right.
So I felt the things that I later on what didn't feel right to me anymore, basically. I was able to basically differentiate, I think, when I got older, the stuff I actually feel a connection to, and the stuff that was just taught.
Right.
And I was told was wrong. And yeah, I guess I would agree with that.
I have that same thing. Like, I can't stand to lie. And I feel like it's my religious upbringing that like the conscience just eats at me. I feel like,
yeah. I mean, that's what it is. It's taught to you. A lot of morals, I think, are taught to people. And I think you just accept it because, like I said, your parents, the people you trust, or it doesn't have to be your parents, it could be just someone you trust, or somehow it just connected with you intellectually or something like that. And yeah, people just keep with the morality of it. But I think in general that we don't, at this point in modern day, I don't think we need the religion anymore.
We don't need it. I know that's our difference. But how do we, this is the one thing that I can never get though. Like scientifically, I can give you the numbers on why forgiveness is something you want in society. Like generosity is another thing that you want in society. And we have Christmas, which has become kind of a secular holiday where we once a year, as a society, we meditate on forgiveness. Or not forgiveness, but generosity. We have all these stories about generosity. They're all religiously based, but over time they've kind of become secular. And I just don't know the secular replacement for something like forgiveness. I also have a disagreement with you on the we are fallen people, because I think one of the reasons why Christianity is so popular is because it does get the human psychology right. I think that as human beings, we are lying, thieving, cheating apes. I mean, you've seen the studies, I'm sure, with chimpanzees and stuff like that. They're not nice people. And religion is Go ahead. No,
go ahead, please. Sorry, no. Please, finish it up.
So religion turns lying, cheating, thieving, stealing apes into selfless cooperators. It turns us into the guy that's going to jump on the grenade to save our platoon, and that's a feat of nature that's really kind of amazing. So I don't necessarily know how we do that without religion, how we do that through secular means. And it seems like and I hate to throw this out because like a lot of atheists have problems with, you want to talk about Stalin or Mao or any of these atheistic. They want to say that they're not necessarily atheistic, but there are cases when, the Reason gang got the reins of power. And, a lot of people ended up dying. We ended up reverting back to those selfish, thieving, lying, cheating apes. And it wasn't a big deal to murder like millions of people.
Well, okay. So there's a couple of things I would say. One, like, obviously, I don't think that lying, stealing is always wrong, right? I think there are situations where it's perfectly okay to lie and to steal. And things like that. But those are
outliers.
So it's not necessarily.
You would admit those are outliers, right? I mean, the case that people commonly say is, you've got the Jewish family under your floorboards and the Nazi.
Yeah. Any kind of thing you're to protect somebody or you're to lie. Yeah, but the thing is like, sure, but I don't know if that makes a big difference in a sense. Listen, if the goal is like, if you're saying what morality is a functioning society. Mm-hmm. Right. Living in a way that a society can function and flourish.
Correct. Thrive.
Okay. Thrive. That's fine. I mean, but that's a particular definition of morality. Like people don't necessarily everyone doesn't share that view of what morality is.
I agree.
And I think that the problem is that even when we talk about these terms, it's just subjective to what your definition of what you view, what is moral. I could ask 10 different people what is morality. Right. It could be Christians, atheists, doesn't matter who it is. They're all going to have different answers for you.
Not all questions, though, because if you ask Christians, I mean, this is the whole point of Christianity. If I ask a Christian, what is it moral to forgive someone who's who's done something wrong to you? Like 99.9% of Christians are going to say yes, right? Because that's the founding ethic of their belief system.
What does that mean to forgive somebody?
Well, I'll take your.
Like, how are you using? No, I'm doing this for a reason, but just so
to let it go.
What would
to let it go?
To let it go.
To stop seeking revenge or retribution. How about that?
So what? Sure. Okay. So let's say that I don't forgive some. Well, see, I can still not forgive somebody and not want to seek revenge on them for something or cause them harm. right?
True.
Someone could do me wrong, and I'm just like, well, I'm not going to forgive them. I'm not going to retaliate. But so in those senses, it doesn't matter if I don't forgive them or not. I'm not saying that forgiveness isn't a good thing. Like I agree, under my moral system, I feel that it's probably good to forgive people for your own, like I think for your own sanity sometimes too, just not to be obsessed with somebody doing something wrong.
They've done lots of studies on this
and that kind of stuff.
I think this can be backed up by the empirical science. It's one of the reasons why I bring it up.
Sure. No, and I agree. But I don't think that, I think at this point, like you were asking, how can we, like how without religion can we do this? Well, at this point, we have a society where those values, those are our values. We live in a society based on, because of the history of Christianity and things like that, at least in North America, in our country, our United States, that we have those values, right? Like, so some of those values that I may have taken from religion, I could still just teach on to my children later. Like I tell you.
What is the context? Like I'm saying, like forgiveness is not in the Constitution.
No. But the context would be, I would tell my children, like, hey, it's not cool to steal things from people because those people may need that. Like that may be harmful to them. Like think about how you would feel if someone stole something from you. Mm-hmm. So like I would reason with them and be like, hey, this is why you probably shouldn't steal. This is why you shouldn't lie. I mean, you could do it with whatever sin we're talking about, not sin, but wrong, correct action. But I think you can explain it in a way because all you're going to do is teach your kid your values. So, I mean, it doesn't, in the same way that Christianity is just teaching the values of the Bible. And I would have to be real with you, though, they are picking and choosing what they want. Most religious people in the Christian Bible,
totally
pick
agree.
And choose.
I totally agree.
What they want to like, what they want to teach out. And I think the thing about it is, and I think you're hitting on it, like that's like the evolution of it, the psychology of it. It doesn't have to do with religion. It has how human beings have evolved. Like the things that, like, more Christians are becoming less anti-gay. I think Christian, if you were asked now, a lot of Christians, the percentage that would say, should gay people be able to get married? They're going to be like, I don't care. The government can do what they want.
I agree. I completely agree. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is I don't think we need it anymore. I think that people can find other reasons to appreciate the things that we value. And it may change, man. Who knows, man? Like what I view as right or wrong. I mean, 20, 30 years from now, weirdly, I don't think I would change my view, but like people may look at the stuff that I find moral as crazy or immoral as crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I've never had, I'm married to my wife. Like I'm not in an open relationship. To me, that's just not something I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Right. Some people may like, hey, it's perfectly cool to have multiple partners. Right. I don't think it's immoral to have multiple partners, but it's just not for me. It's just not a moral stance that I'm interested in. So I think people's personalities change and things like that. Hope that's clear. Sorry, I've been up all day. I apologize.
No, that's no problem. That's no problem. We've been talking for about 45 minutes, so we'll talk for another 15 minutes. If no
worries. Take your time. We're fine.
Because the Fallen. Did I mention the Fallen already? I can't remember so you were saying you thought that teaching someone that they were imperfect or we're gonna that's bad, but I don't necessarily,
or that they need a savior. Yeah, right. in the context that they need that, they have to have someone sacrifice themselves in order for you to be atoned for what you were born with, basically.
Right. Well, I try to boil this stuff down to like the essence. And I do think that gets us the psychology right. This idea that we are imperfect, that we should strive for being better, I think is part of another thing that gets the psychology right. Like it starts us off thinking that we are those selfish, thieving, lying, cheating apes, and that we need to work to get to become the better people that make a society function. So I also think that sinful fallen nature, I mean, the whole package of religion just seems tailor designed to turn, to make society possible to me. And often I hear atheists and anti-theists, the activist types, they're talking about how we don't need religion, like we're past that. Whenever I dig into any of the details, like how do we make forgiveness? How do we instill this value of forgiveness into society? I say, like, right now that value is being instilled through religion. And even if it's not being instilled to 100% of the population, there's kind of this vaccination thing happening where there's enough people that it's being instilled in that the society is actually functioning. I don't think you need, like, I think it would be kind of detrimental to society if one values package was instilled into 100% of society, because I think you'd be leaning more towards like a totalitarian type system. There wouldn't be as much or cultural diversity as kind of a thing like biodiversity is a thing.
Well, the thing is like, if you don't need religion in order to get what you want, like you're just like, basically your concept of morality is just a well-flourishing society that functions. Well, then teach, like you're asking, like, how do we do that then? Well, then teach people that. Like if that's what you believe to be morality and you want to teach other people, like this is the proper moral system we should have, well, then teach it out. Tell people, like, this is the way, like, I believe this is what morality is. This is how we would flourish scientifically based on what you're saying, some of the evidence that you've shown already for different aspects. But you don't need religion for that. Like, I see, I don't view morality as just human flourishing and things like that. I think that if you want what you're describing, you're kind of doing in a sense already. And you don't need the religious aspects of it, because the problem is, like, with what you're talking about, there's not necessarily a lot of negative aspects that come along with it. Right. Like I haven't heard any yet, at least. But I can't imagine that with believing in a moral concepts that make you flourish, to make society flourish, I can't see a lot of negative aspects coming from it. But when I look at religion, Christianity, Islam, it's very, very easy to look around the world and look throughout history and see all the damage and harm that's caused. Sure, has it caused good things? But if you're just talking about, like, we're trying to get to a port of flourishing, like, was it the religion that caused the flourishing? I don't know if it was. I don't know if necessarily religion did that, especially when oftentimes religion actually, like I said, committed genocide. You would kill the people within your society who didn't follow exactly the way that these people who believe they were talking to God wanted. I think it teaches greed often. I mean, look at Abraham in the Bible. Like, what is Abraham blessed for? Like, what does God do for Abraham? Gives him a bunch of wives, gives him lots of wealth. Like, or you look at the Job story, like when Job gets killed, Job doesn't get killed, his family gets killed. How does God reward Job after all that? Gives him a new wife.
Yeah.
Gives him new children, gives him new money. Like, is that the value that I would want? Like, I personally, like, I want my wife and kids back that are now dead because of you, God. Like, and you made some kind of bet with the devil. Like, is this the moral lesson I'm supposed to be learning? Or is it better to learn a lesson of, hey, don't worry, God will bless you with money and property and descendants? Like, to me, that's not a good moral value that causes flourishing. And I would even question, like, it's easy to go to the 10 Commandments, right, and say, like, stealing, lying, murder, but go into the Levitical laws and find out how many of those things actually cause human flourishing within there, or how many of the other principles of the Bible. How about worshiping other gods, right? That it's immoral. That doesn't cause you, by not worshiping other gods, to have human flourishing as far as that goes. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, I see, and it's funny because I see this in a lot of your debates. Like, a lot of your debates on morality really boil down to, you're going to cherry pick the Bible in one way and they're going to cherry pick the Bible in another way. And I don't know that it actually gets anywhere. Like, you're basically going to the most incendiary portions of the Bible to pick out the most incendiary stuff. And it's in there. I won't deny it. Like, I myself.
It's Old and New Testament.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, you're making an argument, and a good argument, against the fundamentalists who want to say, all of this is perfect word of God, because you're applying certain pain points to things that they intuitively know are not moral. Like, no modern person will say the things in there are moral, and they find workarounds all the time. They're like, that's the Old Testament, this is the New Testament, right? But you're doing the same exact thing, though, when you're saying, like, I can point to this passage and say that the Bible encourages greed. I would say that just my read, and I would be more likely to survey religious people to find out what their true beliefs are, because these beliefs are moving. I mean, we have a Supreme Court that interprets the Constitution for the same exact reason, because just because what's written there doesn't, like, it's all about the interpretation. It's all about how people are going to live this stuff out more than actually is what's written there. So I would argue that religious people are really, there's a lot of anti-greed stuff in there. Like Jesus talking about like giving his stuff away, and, you know, a rich man can't get into heaven. All that stuff would be anti-greed stuff. But I do not argue with you that religion does play off our natural propensity towards greed, because even the whole idea of eternal life, I mean, that's greed right there. Like, I want to live forever. I want more life. I admit it. I'm greedy. I want more life. Like, I don't want to die. I want to live forever.
No,
like, that's a very good incentive. And also the question that I have is one of authority. And all of this conversation, I think, is just one of I'm so intrigued scientifically. I just don't know if what the atheist activists or anti-theists want is actually achievable, like technically, because you can tell your kids that, you know, ask yourself inside, how would you feel if somebody stole from you? There are a certain number of kids that are going to be that are not going to take to that prescription. They're going to the idea that you shouldn't do that because God's watching and he's going to roast you if you do has a lot more teeth in it. It really does, than consult your feelings.
It's also psychologically damaging to think that you have a God who's watching you at every moment in time and cares about this stuff.
Welcome to life, man. Life is psychologically damaging.
And I wanted to say, like, so listen, I know I sound harsh in the Bible, but the amount of times that in the study we've done, like reading it and studying, like, for instance, find me one example, and I know you wouldn't make this argument, but find one example of consensual marriage in that book. One. I tell Christians, find me one example of a consensual marriage in that book. It does not exist.
Really? That's funny. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, there's no consensual. It's slave, daughters being sold by their fathers.
Arranged
there's all types.
Last longer than just
exactly. You have the rape marriages. You have the slavery marriages. You have daughters being sold by their fathers, which is kind of slavery, but they kind of viewed it a little differently.
Wow.
All right. And then also, like, listen, like the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount's fantastic, right? Read the rest, but that's like, what? If you were like the amount of pages in a book, what is that, like 5 pages? Maybe?
Yeah.
Like, but when you go to the Old Testament, I'm telling you, find positive things in the Old Testament. Like, go and find something that is like God doing something good for people, in a sense. You read the Old Testament, think about what God does throughout the whole Old Testament. How he drowns the world, like tells people to commit genocide, condones slavery, tells people slavery is okay. God, there's so much. I mean, literally, there's points in the Bible where God says he's going to punish parents and make them cannibals of their own children. That's how bad it's going to be, right? This is not a good moral foundation of the Bible. I agree. Some of the stuff Jesus said, cool stuff, right? But you can go to Buddha. Buddha said this shit before Jesus did. Like Buddha said this, treat others as you treat yourself has been a concept around a long time before Jesus. There's interesting theories about Jesus too, studying like some of Buddhism and things like that, but unfounded. I don't know if it's founded or anything, but I look at the New Testament and most of it, I don't even see much things in the New Testament that's actually very positive. I see the Sermon on the Mount's a good thing. The rest is, it's questionable is what I'll say to be modest with it, I guess. But I don't know, man. I tell people you got to give it the ghost. There's no point. Give it the ghost. Just, teach your kids what you think is moral. That's all you're going to do anyways. Like, you're not going to teach your kids something you don't think is moral. I'd hope not. I mean, and that's all it's going to come down to, man. This is why I think that, like, I think morality evolves. I think morality changes. I mean, you look at this country, bro. At one point in this country, people thought it was perfectly morally acceptable to have black people drink from a different water fountain than white people. I
know, yeah.
Right? Like, and now, don't get me wrong, not all. Let me be fair. Like, there are lots of Christians out there fighting, walking with Martin Luther King. Obviously, Martin Luther King was a Christian.
The Underground Railroad was Christians.
Underground Railroad. Absolutely. A lot of abolitionists were Christians.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
But also, the entire South that owned slaves were also Christians. Like Christian is still the Christian conservative South. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that. I'm sorry.
No, your argument seems to be, and I don't disagree with this. Your argument is that there is a lot of bad stuff in the Bible, but I guess you're also making the argument that we can't get our morality from the Bible, which I disagree with, because people are getting their morality from the Bible. They're just cherry picking. They're not. They're staying away from the bad stuff that you're talking about and going to the good stuff. But you're going to the bad stuff, and you're saying that makes it impossible to do what they are actually doing every single day.
No, I get what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, I get your point. What you're saying. Yeah, yes, you can go and you can choose the 10% of the Bible. That's probably positive.
And follow this. Even in that, because I'm telling you, the Bible bores me. Like say that there's
not an exciting book.
To say that there's only, I might believe you that there's only 10% good stuff, and maybe, I don't, you know the numbers better on the bad stuff, but I'd say 90% of it is inert. I mean, they're talking about stuff in numbers. I'm like, I've lost the plot here. Like, what's going on? Why is this valuable again? Like, why is this in here?
Well, a lot of it's about obedience to God. A lot of stuff in the Old Testament.
Well, respect for authority is important. I would argue that in society right now, we have kind of a crisis of authority. Like, I would argue that a lot of the problems that are going on in the academic setting with the social justice stuff is a crisis of authority. Like, nobody wants to step up and say, hey, we have to have some semblance of order here. So that's a danger for society too.
Well, there's this culture now that thinks that like silencing people is a good thing. Like let's just silence everybody. Yeah. And I think that's a terrible idea. I don't like these people that go and protest people, like won't allow people to go guest speak at colleges and things like that. I mean, that's what college is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a place for ideas and thoughts and to challenge your own beliefs.
Yeah, you're thinking.
And yeah, exactly. And
that's where honestly, we get rid of that's where we turn them into atheists, right?
That's exactly right. And
they come in with a strong moral compass, and we just strip them of the belief part. We tell them Santa Claus isn't real.
I learned something very, very important when I talk morality with Christians, and as I stopped making judgments. So I stopped saying this is wrong, this is bad, this is awful, whatever words that I want to use to give an adjective for what my disgust towards some of the morals in there. And what I do is I just try to get them to repeat what they believe. Because once they repeat what they believe, then it hits them. They make the moral judgment. And I've seen it happen 2 or 3 times where I've talked morality people. I'll bring up like 1 Samuel with killing the infants and stuff like that. And I'll be like, so just repeat. I was like, so you're saying that it's moral for God to order people to kill children, right? I won't ask the question. I was like, I just want you to say yes. Is that moral? And then once they say it, they're like, well, you're just, you're just pushing your morality on us. And I'm like, pushing my morality on you. I'm just asking you, say it. Just say that that's what you believe. And then once people say it, it hits them because they make the moral judgment. They feel that it's wrong. And I think that's the way that you change people, is you have to get people to recognize that they're thinking, the way they think about something is illogical. You can do the same thing in politics too. You just get them to realize the contradiction in what they're saying and what they actually believe. Basically.
So you're saying that you're getting them to access their moral intuitions, their internal moral intuitions. That's what you're doing.
More of their feelings is what I would say. Their emotional connection to something.
Right, but that emotional connection was implanted when they were children by learning this religious stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Well, not all the time. I mean, people, but that's what I'm saying. You don't need religion. Like you could have secular. There are secular atheist parents. Like I'm a secular parents, and I'm teaching my kids morality without religion.
What are you teaching them about forgiveness? How are you teaching them forgiveness?
It's interesting. We don't, forgiveness is.
Oh, you're missing.
We say things like we're sorry. No. What I would say is I was trying to think about it for a moment. Really think about how I in the sense of saying sorry to each other. Mm-hmm. So like, I would teach it in the sense. Say my kids were fighting. I got a 9-year-old. I got a 4-year-old. Right. Mm-hmm. And they're fighting over toys or something, like some kind of toy, and something happens. And like, say one of them hits the other one. And I'm like, listen, you know, you got to say sorry to your brother, say sorry to your sister. We love each other. We care about each other. People who care and love about each other don't hit and hurt other people to get what they want, or something like that. You know, who knows how it articulated to a 9-year-old. But yeah, there's definitely ways to do it. I mean, and my kids, like, so it's interesting because I originally had my son in a Christian pre-K. Because it was a good school and I was like, it's nice. Yeah. I initially had it. It was a nice school. And my thought was, it's a pre-K. What the hell are they going to teach him at pre-K? Right. Like, I was like, we're not going to get deep into Jesus on the cross and all this stuff.
They're like, gays are evil.
Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. Sure enough, though.
Were they?
No, not gays are evil. No. Okay. But we would come home and it would be like, we would be at the dinner table and like my 5-year-old's like, hey, can we pray before dinner? I'm like, oh Lord. Okay. And we're not going to be assholes. Like, I'm not going to be a guy who's like, no, we're not praying, you know, like if he wants to pray, I'm going to do a prayer with him, whatever. Nice. That's his thing. Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not, I don't think that's good to do with a kid anyways, but as he got older and we started talking, we talked more. And I was like, he's like, well, we started talking about God a little bit more. And I'm like, listen, I don't know if there's a God. Maybe there is one. And I told them that many people believe many different things. And I hate to say it, he's probably a full-blown like non-believer now, because now he's talking about science and the universe being created. And he doesn't really believe in God, but I think he may have heard a lot of my conversations and things like that. But my daughter, on the other hand, is growing up not in that pre-K. So it's going to be an interesting little scientific experiment.
Oh my God.
How but you know, I'm not teaching them any different. I'm teaching them the same value.
Yeah.
Like that. But it'll be interesting to see, but I don't you don't need, as long as you have, well, I say this, I'm hesitant here, right? And how I'm saying this to you, because part of me wants to make a distinction with you about what I view as moral. Right. Like, because it just comes down to what you view morality is, and then what you feel is the right morality to teach your kids. But like, that's all I think we do as human beings. I think we have a preference to what we think is moral. I think you're right. I think there are definitely psychological factors that come into play, biological, evolutionary factors. But in the end, you're just teaching your kids what you think is right. And that doesn't require religion. I guess that's my bottom line.
So here.
Yeah.
I think here's my final point, and we can go ahead and end on this, but I just wonder, because I feel like a lot of people are different, and you seem to have a stance, like a strong stance, that you're right and that we don't need religion. Like you've said it several times. Like, sure. I've watched your videos, you make this argument. And I'm not that self-assured that if I told somebody, you know, you don't need religion and it's all a bunch of BS and your life will be a lot better if you don't worry about religion, and they believe me, but their life is not tangibly better. Like it makes their life worse. And I don't necessarily know that I can't convince myself that that's not a possibility, if maybe even a likelihood. So it's one of the reasons why I am more careful about saying that to people, because I feel like there are certain people that could, you know, that their lives are made tangibly better by religion. And I worry about my impact on that situation. So let me ask you this.
Well, yeah, let me ask you this in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. You have a favorite movie?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So let's say that favorite movie of yours, right? You never watched it, never knew what it was, never knew what it was called, just something never existed to you. Would you be able to distinguish whether your life would be better with it or without it, without knowing what the movie is in the first place?
Well, it's different with a religion though, because you're embedded in a community. Like you obviously would. I'm assuming you would rather your son get involved with the local Christian ministry group than the Crips. Like, sure, but the drug dealing, murdering Crips, right?
But if there was no religion, if you didn't teach this religion, they wouldn't have a concept of it in the first place. They wouldn't know the difference, whether it was better. Now, if you're saying, I agree with your point. If you're saying, hey,
go ahead.
Someone's taught religion, and then it's either an option if they were already taught religion or now you're taking it away from them,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a different scenario. I would agree with you that may make a bigger difference. But what I'm saying is that if they were never taught religion in the first place, they wouldn't be, their life may not be better or worse because of it.
But you're
there's no reason to
talking to
believe
people. You're talking to people who are believers, though. I mean, you're basically trying to deconvert believers. So I mean,
no. I don't. That's not the purpose. My purpose of my show is entertainment, like in to have debate and dialogue. Yeah,
what you are.
So like, it's not my Joe's. Well, I mean, I want to deconvert fundamentalists, people who have beliefs that are probably dangerous to them.
And I think that's great. Actually, I think fundamentalists are, but I don't see a massive amount of fundamentalists. I see a lot of, there are definitely fundamentalists, but I don't see it being like the massive problem most people see it to be. So I guess,
I mean, look, even to this day, you still in politics, you still have a lot of this. Like,
not in politics, but think about go away, though.
Yeah, think about we'll really be able to tell it will be a big tester is if somehow Pete Buttigieg becomes the nominee for the Democratic Party. We'll see how the gay issue plays out in American politics with the evangelical Christians, and that will be a true kind of like telling to see where we've moved as a country. And I do think that I don't know. Never mind. I thought it just went away. Sorry. It was there. But it's not that important. But
Converse,
I just think that it. Go ahead.
Converse contender for $1.99 said, read the definition of facile to Skylar. I don't know what the definition of facile is. Maybe saying you're being facile. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's an insult or not, but
I could look it up.
I was going to look it up.
It's especially a theory of argument appearing neat and comprehensive only to ignore true complexities on the issue. There's no doubt there's complexities. I don't disagree with the complexities of everything.
Well, I'm pointing them out. You're not really disagreeing with them, but
no, exactly. Like I don't think we actually disagree that much, to be frank with you.
Right.
I think if I were more, I think you would have more disagreement with me if I was like one of these people who said that people should never have faith or any religion.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, listen, if it doesn't harm anybody or hurt you personally, that's fine. Do it. I think I'm saying bigger picture is what I'm really talking is like, what we're talking about is there's an inner thing we're talking about, which is about morality and whether we need the religion to have the morality or to have more of a, and it's kind of a separate thing, what we're talking about in a sense. And I think if you're listening to the audience, it may seem kind of confusing as we're going a lot of different places and it's complex.
I do wonder, getting that ethics package into the society in a sustained way. The solution that you're pointing to is that every single person comes up with their own way of doing it. And that doesn't seem like an efficient way to do it. It seems like Christianity is an efficient way to do it. One that we have this little problem with the gay stuff.
Well, it's more than that.
I think is being
it's way more than that. I think that it's not just the gay stuff. There's a lot of problems with Christian. It's what you're saying now isn't religion. You're talking about modern day moderate Christian beliefs are a good thing. That's basically what you're telling me. You're not saying because religion in the past was very much different. Yeah. Right. These things that brought about these moral values and things like that, very, very much different.
Well, it's an ethics package.
I was just go ahead. Well, I was going to tell you too. The other part I was going to tell you is it's not that I'm saying this is what people should do. I think this is what people are doing. I think people have their own moral systems. They're either taught or whatever they develop on their own. I think it's a combination of a couple of things actually. But that's how the world works, is that people have all these different moral systems. Now, sometimes we agree on things. Sometimes we have group religious organizations that teach you a set of values. But what I think the problem with what you're arguing is that it works for what you're saying now, right? With moderate Christians that aren't all into the other stuff of the Bible, but give it 50 years. Who knows what the new Christianity is going to be teaching or the new Islam is going to be teaching. Look at Islam compared 50 years ago, what Islam was like compared to what you see some of the manifestations of Islam coming out in the Middle East. right? You change the environment, you change you change the environment, you change what's going on, it can mold into things. You end up with ISIS, right? Opposed to maybe the type of Muslims you're going to find in Indonesia, a very peaceful Muslim country with almost 1 billion people or something.
Well,
Super
this is
amount
why
of
I'm
Muslim.
careful to talk about the distinct religion, because I don't know like what the highest. I don't know anything about Islam as far as the ethics go.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know what their position on forgiveness is, or whether or not they get the psychology right about how people are born imperfect, that it's a struggle to become perfection.
But it's
to move towards perfection.
Imperfect by what standard? But what's the so when you say people are born imperfect, what's the standard you're appealing to there?
Jesus.
To say something's perfect or
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about within a religious context.
Well, hold on. If you're like you have to come up with a standard too, correct? Who are you going to pick? Batman?
No, I have my own standard.
Yeah. Well, what is that standard?
Mine, my own personal moral system that I've created.
Right. Well, but what if that standard is like chaotic evil? Like I lie to everyone. Like what if that standard is psychopath? Like
it happens.
It does happen. Society can't necessarily gel. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a different issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying whether a society will gel with it or it's cohesive to a functioning and flourishing society is different from saying what the morality is.
But that's the problem,
and where it comes from.
That's the problem of morality. What's that?
What do you mean? What do you mean by a problem?
Well, the morality is a set of rules that govern society. So if everyone has different rules, you have no rules. You have no rules governing society.
We find agreement. Listen, like you could have the thing about being a human being is there are things that make us alike, right? Most of us have emotion. Most of us empathy. So there are things that are rooted within us that lead us towards similar moral values.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see culturally why someone like a Western country is going to have similar moral values compared to maybe a Middle Eastern country, right? But in the end, it's just us choosing, going with what we feels good to us, feels right to us, and then what feels good to us, what feels right to us changes. It evolves over time. Like I said, there are things that we would look at the past and be like, this is awful compared to what any kind of modern day standards of it. But I want to get back. What you're saying is like when you're saying like, well, we're born. I don't know, like we're born in a way that's I don't know, maybe I don't want to say what your words were, but I don't know what the standard of good and bad is there. Besides a human being just saying, this is what I think is good. This is what I think is bad. Or simply just defining it as human flourishing, basically.
Well, I think when
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think when people say, when people are looking for the avatar of goodness, they're looking for the if everyone in society lives up to this archetype, then we will have a good society. That's basically what they're saying. When they're saying the bad avatar, they're saying if everyone, acts like this, society's going to suck. So those are the measures of the good and bad.
But now let's see if I filter that through religion now, right? So it would be bad for me to worship another God that isn't Jehovah or Jesus.
Well,
it would be bad for me to be homosexual.
Yeah, that's the one we have the problem with.
Well, I mean, that worshiping other gods.
Well, no, the other gods thing. Obviously, that's just someone who's embedded in the religion is going to think that that's a bad thing. But most of them believe that they're worshiping the same God. What's that?
Sure. I said, but it isn't going to hurt society for you to worship another God. It isn't going to hurt society for you to be gay. It isn't going to hurt society for you to lie sometimes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
In fact, it probably makes our society run better lies. Probably a lot of time. I hate to say it like that, but it's probably true.
Dan Howard for $2 says Skylar needs to watch the Yuri Bizmenov video. I think I'm pronouncing that.
I have no clue what that is.
A lot of people always say to watch this video. I've watched it a few times, and he just talks about how the Russians basically tried to instill progressive values into America to destroy America from within. So I don't know if it's.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's true or
about
not.
that.
But I thank you for the super chat, Dan. So do you have any final words you want to say, or I don't know?
No, I mean, I'm happy if anybody in the audience has questions, I'll answer any questions. I love this kind of stuff is fun to me. So like, if you have questions, like you were lying. You have a lot of theists in your audience that watch your show. I'm actually kind of surprised for a non-believer you have this many.
Well, I respect religious people, and they have their beliefs, and I'm not trying to convert. If anything, they're trying to convert me. We're gonna do
that's true.
PSA. I do a Sunday live stream with PSA Sitch on his second channel, PSA Sitch on Daily. If you want to subscribe there, you can check it out. We talk for anywhere. Like we talk for 2 to 4 hours. I think we're going to have a couple of Christians from the Red Pill religion camp. I think.
Oh God.
Yeah. They
you had Dean on before.
They're gonna. I've talked to him before. Yeah, it didn't go well. Like he doesn't believe in evolution. Obviously, I'm a hardcore evolutionist. I get along well with Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy because he's a theistic evolutionist. So, but I think they're going to come on and try and convert me. It's funny because they said on Twitter, they're like, is it cool if we come on and try to convert you to Christianity? I'm like, I am a Christian. I just don't believe in God. Because I think ethnically I am a Christian. I don't know how you would say I'm not. I know Christianity inside and out. I feel comfortable talking about it because I was raised Christian. Like my moral compass is a Christian moral compass instilled in me when I was too young to even know it was happening. So I wonder if that's a possibility. And I mean, I couldn't do it I don't have kids, but I couldn't do it to my own kids, probably for the same reason you can't do it to your own kids, because it would be a lie if you did it. Your parents did it to you and they weren't lying because they believed it, but I'm not a believer. So there is a contradiction there. And the universe seems to have a sense of irony with these kind of contradictions that they place in front of us as human beings, because I honestly think that, that would be a difficult thing. I guess if I ever have kids, I'll have to cross that bridge when I get to it. So
I think though, listening to you though, I think you appreciate Christianity a lot, obviously because of the way you were raised under Christian values and things like that. But I think these things that you appreciate about it can be found in other places that aren't.
I keep asking you where, and you keep punting though.
Buddhism has a lot of those beliefs.
The technical difficulties of turning I'm in Los Angeles. I could probably find a Buddhist church to become a part of. But
it would be very much in line with the Sermon on the Mount,
but
stuff like that.
America's not going to become Buddhist. Like we are in agreement there, right?
Maybe
it slowly is. I don't know.
Well, listen, what I say is the new modern day Christianity, if you're not an evangelical, like fundamentalist, I just call it spirituality, right? It's just like, I believe in God. God's looking out for me. I love him. That's about it. Yeah. And I think people and then what you would call moral, right? Just, doing good. You might follow things like the Sermon on the Mount or something like that. But I think, but I don't want to become like a broken record. You just don't need it. You don't need it. You can you teach people what you find to be morally valuable.
You keep saying
teach it to other people. Teach it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it in my life right now to my children. And there's no religion involved. Dr. Josh Bowen, my co-host, has 3 children. He's doing the same thing.
Right.
There are tons of secular families teaching their own personal moral values to their kids. And it's working just fine.
Right.
I think the religion just muddies it up. Like, I think then you have to deal with doctrine. Then you're dealing with people because most Christians believe the Bible to be inerrant. And then when you get into that situation of having to read it, then you had to believe in all kinds of funny and interesting things in there. And then think about a group like the Calvinists. You familiar with Calvinism?
Yeah,
You're
totally.
aware of them. Yeah. This is a group of people that honestly believe that God completely planned out everything that's happening in our existence right now, like it's written out in a book. So figuring that out in some kind of moral system is very bizarre in general to me. Well, I don't know, man. It's one of those things, I guess.
One ROQUO12 for $5 says, could the two opponents offer a high quality non-religious argument against gay marriage, introspective of whether you agree with it, the argument or not? So a high quality non-religious argument against gay marriage. Yeah, I guess so it's a secular argument against gay marriage. I know Paul Vanderklay laid out a really interesting evolutionary argument for why you in society you might frown on gay marriage, because back in the past it was obviously a struggle to survive, and the more people that you had, the more work you could get done. So therefore, being against couplings that didn't produce offspring would probably be a natural course of action. And obviously evolution seizes on whatever our intuitions are that favor whatever's evolutionarily viable and kind of pushes us in that direction. I mean, one of the reasons why monogamy is a thing is because obviously there's paternity uncertainty in males. So an evolution seizes on that.
I think it would be hard to make this argument if we're talking about the context of marriage and like our American culture, because it's just legality is really all we're talking about. I couldn't even begin to try to make an argument against gay marriage. I don't see there to be any justifiable reason to say that people under the law couldn't have the same rights as a straight couple.
Yeah,
a heterosexual
I agree.
couple. And that, yeah. And in the end, like there's no really good reason to do that. Personally, I feel, yeah, I mean, listen, and it doesn't stop people from being gay, folks. Like if you're out there and you think it's just like drugs, right? Like making drugs illegal, people are still going to do them. Being gay, you can't turn off that gay switch. That's an interesting, like the gay conversion therapy that they're banning in certain states. That's an interesting, I mean, that's an aspect of religion that's damaging.
The software hardware thing. I don't necessarily know. I mean, my personal experience is I just was born straight. Like I didn't choose what I'm attracted to. No. So it's hard for me to imagine that gay people choose what they are attracted to. But there's probably certain people that choose. I mean, that probably happens. People do choose what they're attracted to in some cases. So. But
or you grow a liking to something.
Sure, totally.
Maybe you start liking brunettes or blondes or something happens. So I'm married to most of my life I dated white girls. And then when I was 25, I met my first black woman. And
really?
I started dating. Yeah, and that's my wife now.
Really?
So, and now I'm not even attracted to white girls now. So like it's weird. I mean, I find them. They're a beautiful white.
That's funny.
Yeah, I went black and I never went back.
Right.
So the thing is, but I mean, my taste changed. I used to really be into blonde women, and eventually, I don't know. I became attracted to this other girl of color. Got really into her, and then like it's something in my brain was like, oh, I like this better. Like something appeal. And then obviously, as the years go by and being married, stuff like that, that's what my preference is. I mean, now I'm married. I can't really do anything with it. Yeah. So, but what are you gonna do?
Marriage is a good thing.
I'm an open book.
It's one of the reasons why I'm in favor of gay marriage, because I just look at it as the buddy system. Like everyone needs a friend. Everyone needs someone that they can rely on. Like when you go in the military, they established the buddy system immediately.
And if you do it right, you meet someone who's going to make you better.
Yeah,
as a person.
Exactly.
Right. Like it's going to challenge you. I think a lot of times I think it's always good to date people that are a little different from you. Like you got to obviously have similarities and things you like, but you also have to have things that, I used to be really bad with money when I was younger. And my wife taught me all types of things with finance and savings and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. But there are things that I taught her throughout life. There were things that I was better at. And, I hate to say that I probably made her a non-believer over the years. She still kind of has a hint of God belief there, but she's pretty much agnostic with me now. And I think my conversations with her, because we had a point in our life where we didn't talk religion, but we were just like, this is an off, so we don't talk. We were just going to fight about stuff. But then the more I just learned to understand and listen and talk things out, it just changed both our views, or really more her views. I hate to say, but that's the truth. I don't know, man.
Well, this has been a good talk, man. Long time coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want me to come back on, man, I'd love it. This is fun. This is a good conversation.
Yeah, I like talking about this stuff too. It's good to show people that you can talk about it and it doesn't have to get crazy.
No, exactly.
All right, I'll go ahead and leave it there. You have any final words? You want to pitch your channel or your Twitter or anything?
Listen, if you guys like this, Skylar Fiction with the AR, just go type it in YouTube. I'm on Twitter too. But if you enjoy theological discussions, debates, and more important, entertainment and Raptor Jesus, then you should check it out. And just make sure that you get right with Raptor Jesus today. I don't want any of you guys to miss out on it. Like, there's a good Raptor heaven that will happen, and you gotta make sure you're right with him.
How can you not like the soul surviving Velociraptor from the Ark?
And he gave up his claws for you. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. He gave up his claws so that you could have eternal life. And that one day you will have your own very claws in heaven. So that's what you got to do. And it'll make your life better. Give you those good moral foundations.
All right. We'll go ahead. We'll leave it there. Let us know in the comments below what you think. If you have any questions, obviously Skylar said he'd answer them. So I will expect him lurking in my comment section. Take care, everyone.
Let me know.
Have a good night, and we will see you in the next video.